Hello everybody. Today's session we'll be discussing about balanced accuracy, although this comes under metric evaluation. But let's discuss second topic. I planned out to be metric evaluation, but then I realized that I do have a dedicated playlist for metric evaluation and you can check it out. And most probably this part of the video will be cut and would be shifted over to the metric evaluation playlist at a later point. Till then, enjoy what is balanced accuracy, and at the later part of the video we'll learn how to make TF records, custom TF records, and why they are helpful, why they are useful, what's the benefit of using custom TF records. First topic is balanced accuracy, and what exactly is balanced accuracy. So there are three aspects, so we'll move step by step. First we learn how to do the implementation. After you understand the implementation part, we'll shift on to understand when you should actually use balanced accuracy and what does it signify. So what exactly, no, first we'll do the implementation, then we'll move on to what exactly the mathematical or formula implies of balanced accuracy and why should you prefer balanced accuracy over other metrics. I'll be referring to few of the to the blog articles which are quite impressive and have a hell lot of information provided in a very brief and detailed manner. So let's begin without any delay. This is the official sklearn source which talks about balanced accuracy. What exactly is balanced accuracy? Nothing much. To get it done, you need to have sklearn metrics, balanced accuracy, get your widebread, pass through balanced accuracy. And what's the difference between accuracy and balanced accuracy? From here you would get to know. I think the instance is starting. Yep, it started. Good enough. So that's the difference between balanced accuracy and accuracy score. Slight difference. Let's do one thing. Let's say I'm actually trying to obtain the cases wherein accuracy would be way higher and balanced accuracy is way lower. So here you can see it's one of the cases wherein balanced accuracy is higher and accuracy score is way low. What's the case herein? When the balanced accuracy is higher, you can see that y true was 1, so you need to have one prediction, and no matter what amount of false positives you have, your balanced accuracy would be higher. That's what it signifies, higher than your accuracy score. Now let's say it was 0 and everything was a wrong prediction apart from the only positive class. Now you were unable to detect the only positive class apart from only positive class. So mind one word, if you are able to detect the minority class well, in balanced accuracy, it would fetch a score very high. If you are able to detect all the minority classes perfectly, then your balanced accuracy score would be high, no matter what amount of false positives you obtain. If you are unable to detect the minority class, your balanced accuracy score would drop drastically, and accuracy score would drop likewise, but accuracy score would be higher. Coming to this particular scenario wherein we have all the correct predictions, as expected. This is all correct. This is predicting everything as 0. Accuracy is 1 or is quite high. But if I predict this one particular as correct and everything else as incorrect, doesn't matter. The balanced accuracy would be still higher, would be higher than the accuracy score. That's the only point wherein balanced accuracy is higher than the accuracy score, wherein all you need to do is predict the minority class correctly, and rest of the classes, irrespective of what the rest of the classes are, you can have a higher balanced accuracy score. That's the only point. So this is the practical implementation and scoring and evaluation. Now let's jump into the understanding. So let's close this tab. Here we are, balanced accuracy. In balanced accuracy, what the formula signifies is theoretically balanced accuracy is specificity plus sensitivity and average of the two. That is what balanced accuracy is. So it's a metric that one uses can evaluation good metric. This is this confusion metric. So this is what sensitivity is: true positive by true positive plus false negative, and specificity is true negative by false positive plus false negative. What was the essence of sensitivity? So let's try to understand the essence of sensitivity. Essence of sensitivity is you're trying to find out how many true positives were detected, how many predictions which were claiming itself to be positives were actually positive upon the total amount of, upon the predictions which were actually positives, upon the the predictions which were predicted as positives upon the items which were actually positives. So that's what sensitivity is. If you don't understand, please get to the evaluation metric playlist. You will understand it in a better manner. Let's get to the specificity part. On a very similar line, the predictions which were correctly predicted as negatives upon the items which were actually negative. So sensitivity tries to bring in the amount of positive predictions which were correctly done. That's what sensitivity does. You're predicting that these classes were positives among the things which were actually positive. Specificity does, you're predicting these classes were actually negative among the things which were actually negative. And you're doing the average of two. So you're taking into consideration the positive part of the confusion matrix and the negative part of the confusion matrix. And that's what the name is, that's what the name comes from, balanced accuracy. So you're taking into consideration both parts, the positive part of the confusion matrix and the negative part. How is it different from F1 score? So let's jump into it. I won't go through the entire block. Let's jump to F1 score. What and how does F1 differ from balanced accuracy, and in which case would you prefer to use a F1 score and which case would you prefer to use a balanced accuracy? What is F1 score? 2 times precision into recall by precision plus recall. Good enough? So it takes what is precision? True positive by true positive plus false positive. No. Yeah, false positive, true positive by true positive plus false positive. So which is actually, precision is how many samples you're actually delivering as predicting as these are the positives ones upon the total number of samples which have been predicted positives. So what's the precision of your predicting as anything labeling? How good are you labeling anything as a positive thing? That's what precision denotes. That's what precision denotes. how many of the positive samples, let's say you're labeling anything as a positive sample, how many of the positive samples you're labeling are actually positive. So it metrifies, or it evaluates your ability to to label anything as a positive thing. So if you're labeling anything as a positive thing, how good are you at? That's denoted by precision. So now we have precision, we have this. So this what is taking into precision and sensitivity recall, but is missing one thing, which is true negative. So F1 score is actually quite good in those cases of fraud detection, or you are dealing with something wherein you are actually overweighing the positive classes. You're actually overweighing the positive classes compared to the negative classes. In those cases, precision is a very extremely good metric. I think this clarifies and explains the topic to a great extent. The next topic would be a hefty one, which is understanding TF records. I hope this was clear to a great extent. If not, please let me know. I would be more than happy to help you out. All right, let's move on to the next topic. So let's get started with the next part of the video, wherein we'll be talking about creating TF records. So we'll be talking about how you can create TF records and dealing with them, why TF records are so popular in TensorFlow, in the world of TensorFlow, why TF records are so popular, what's the benefit of serialization and things associated like those, what's TF record, how you can make it, how to utilize it, how to ensure that it's not a bottleneck and you're actually benefiting from TF records. So those are the factors which you would like to know and which I would like to share. So let's get started. Just a bunch of random couple of lines. Doesn't make any sense. So sure. This is what we are going to understand, the official example, and extend upon the official example for our own needs and for our own purpose. So they are talking about what is exactly TF records. Let me explain this particular thing. What exactly is TF records? TF records are basically whenever either you can, let's say you're eating food. There are two methods of getting the food. Either you can eat the food as it is, or you can process it. The more processed and more granular the food is, the better it is. Or in other words, let's say in the process of digesting starch or those kind of things, it would be much easier if it is broken down into simpler forms rather than into a complex food, the way it is in its initial stage. I'm not talking about cooked or uncooked, I'm talking about the way it is presented. You have a cooked food and you can convert the cooked food into a cereal method, into very fine particles. So the ability to digest and process by your body the consumed food, which was converted into a very granular manner, would be way higher compared to the one wherein it's presented the way it is. So that's what we are talking about. Protocol buffers. Protocol buffers is a way of efficient serialization of the structured data. You're trying to serialize the data. Now, why do you want to serialize data? So as to, there are multiple purposes. If you have attended any of my quick ML sessions, you must be knowing why are TF records so popular and beneficial. But if you don't know, let's say if you don't know why are TF records so popular and beneficial, the reason is they are a method to efficiently serialize your data. If you are serializing your data, you end up having you're compromising the storage, so you end up taking up more space. But in return, you are getting a way faster computation. And if you want faster computation, especially for GPUs or for TPUs, for TPUs, if you want to use TPU, then you need to use TF records. That's the best way. But if you can also use GPUs and obtain a 70% performance hike using TF records, so that's one of the most beautiful parts and the amazing parts of TF records, and that's quite beneficial. So let's get started. Now, in TF records, we have, like in NumPy arrays, we have a data item. In TF records, we have data examples. So every example is a dictionary having multiple keys and their corresponding values. So let's say one key might be having the image and its value, and the key and the label and its value, the ID and its value. These are one components of one particular example. So that's what is how it is, but that's how it is designed. That's how it is designed. So you'll get to know the more we jump and go deeper in it. And yeah, this particular point is quite important. So as to actually benefit from TF records, you need to use tf.data. tf.data ensures that you are actually benefiting from the TF record conversion, and you are not getting the bottleneck of performance by using or converting the data to TF record format. Now, in general, you should shard your data across multiple files. Let's see whatever it is. Now let's get started. So data types within one TF example, within one example. So what are the different data types you might have? So this is a mapping. Fundamentally, this is the mapping, a string type and its TF train feature mapping. Now TF train feature message type can accept one of the following three types. It can be a byte list, float list, and 64 list. Good enough. So TF train feature message type can accept one of the following three types. Proto file for reference. Most other generic types can be coerced into one of these. Byte list. So if you have the, let's say, name, you would store it under byte list, string, byte. If you have any numerical data, let's say number of instances, those kind of things, you will store it under float list. Or if you have something like Boolean or integer, you would store under int64 list. In order to convert a standard TF float type to train example compatible TF train feature, you can use these shortcut functions below. Note that each function takes a scalar input and returns a TF train feature containing one of the three list types above. So these are the functions which have been defined and provided by TensorFlow. So let's experiment out what exactly it is. So we have this as the utility function. We have defined the utility function. Now let's get to the coding part. So if first function was byte list, wherein you're trying to send a byte list of TF train byte list type, or the first type, TF train byte list, and the value would be equal to the value. If it is a float, it would go under float list. If it is a integer or Boolean, it would go under this. This is the bits format. This is another encoding. No matter what it is, it goes under byte list. So we are done with the initial part. I think this is pretty simple. This is nothing. These are the three types of feature which are provided, and these are the fundamental features. And using multiple of these features, let's say all of these go under one example. So example is built on top of features, is building blocks of an example of the examples are features. Now if you want to have features, you need to have, if you want to have examples, you need to have features, and using features you will be able to build examples. That's what we are trying to do. But to simplify the process, they have defined few utility functions. Now let's proceed. All proto messages can be serialized to binary string using to serialize to string. Yeah, this is one thing important. So let's say this one can be done as to serialize to string, and then you see the output of the last unit. This is what the serialization happened. This is how the serialization happens. So we won't be serializing one feature, we would be serializing the entire set of examples. Not even one example. Let's say these four get under one example, multiple, let's say hundreds and thousands of such examples are then converted to a serial and then stored. So now we will do, we have converted, we have created features. Now we'll try to create a example. So this is the dataset generation part. What we are trying to do is, suppose you want to create TF train example message from existing data. In practice, the data may come along anywhere. So what QuickML does, I have defined a particular format wherein you have image and class labels. You cannot deviate from that. This is basically a custom feature generation, custom TF example generation, and that does help a lot many times. In future, I think it would be smarter to incorporate such custom features, I think. Yeah. The way it is done in QuickML is quite hard-coded. Not hard-coded, is the format is quite restricted, so you cannot deviate from its format. So all you can do is add images and add the corresponding label, but you won't be able to add other things. If you want to add other information along with the particular, let's say your data unit has image, class label, and some other meta attribute. Let's say has something, has not something, those kind of things. So those kind of things you won't be able to add with the help of QuickML, but this is method. So I won't be wasting time over here. This is nothing but dataset generation, a random dataset generation. Now once we proceed to here, the idea would be the dataset will have 4 features. One is a Boolean. Feature 1 would be Boolean feature. Feature 2 would be integer values 0 to 4. Feature 3 would be a class label from these many things, and feature 4 would be a float feature from a standard normal distribution. The number of such features would be 10,000, and now we will define a serialize function, serialize example. So within serialize example, I'll pass my feature 0, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3. After passing the features, this is my feature map. What happens in QuickML, I have defined this as int64 or whatever, int64 or float64, whatever. I have defined as float feature. So I have one float feature and one byte feature. But if you want to add extra information, this is how you're gonna do. So that is hard coded. I think that needs an upgradation that will be soon performed. Apart from this, we have example proto would be equal to tf train example, right? So how do you use tf train example? Let's go to here. TF train example is mostly normalized data format for storing data for training and inference. It's used everywhere. Let's see, simple, quite simple. Nothing, just pass in the features. Features would be equal to tf train features, and the feature would be equal to feature. This is the format of the feature map, so it goes in this way. First you have the tf train example. Within tf train example, you need to define the features. What features would be there? So it would be a bunch of TF train features, wherein the feature map is defined by this method, by this particular feature map. And within the feature map, I could have done, like, let's say my int feature, feature 0 would be equal to calling the int64 feature and passing the feat 0. But that would be a lengthy process. Why to do some repetitive steps, and rather we just jumped and skipped over a few steps. It's good to skip over a few steps if you can. That's what it is. So you have example proto, your example is defined. You just made one example. You just made one example, and now what you want to do is return example proto buff or proto in a serialized manner. I think good enough. Now let's try to understand. This would work for a single example, not for all the samples, just a single feature, not feature set, a single feature. A single feature with its feature encoding defined, then go over here and it would get the thing done. Yeah, good enough. And if you want to decode, so what we're going to do is this. This is the decoding part. Now let's move on to how can we inculcate multiple features in one single example. No. We are getting started with TF records. The TF record file contains a sequence of records. The file can only be read sequentially. Each record contains a byte string for the data payload. This is okay. There's no requirement to use TF train example in TF records files. TF train example is just a method of serializing dictionaries to byte strings. Any byte string can be decoded in TensorFlow using TF record file stored in a TF record file. Examples include text, JSON, encoded image data, serialized TF tensor, those kind of things. So now we'll try to understand the actual utilization of TF records using TF.data. So writing a TF record file, easiest way to get the data into dataset is from tensor slices method, but we would never ever use from tensor slices method. The reason is it ultimately fails the processing and the effort put in for making a TF records. Is the worst way to go through it, but let's explore. So this is what feature 1 is. So it's nothing, a data set of scalars applied to a tuple of arrays. It returns a data set of tuples. You can take one. Yeah, this is quite important feature, especially while you are trying to do predictions. .take method. So let's say you have obtained your feature data set. Let's store it over here. Like say features data set would be equal to this tensor slices, wherein I don't have single feature, rather I have multiple features, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3 and feature 4. These are the 4 features I have for my features data set. Now what I do is What I'm gonna do is, let's say I want the first element, so feature 0, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3 in features dataset dot take one element only, print the features, and it would exit. It would only iterate for one element, not all the elements. So this is the first element which was generated in the dataset. Now let's move on to this. Use the TF dataset map to apply a function to each element of the dataset. Yeah, good enough. A non-tensor function like serialize example can be wrapped with tfpy function. Now let's get started. I think this particular portion is a bit complex and is not quite well written for a beginner. So what we're going to do is do hands-on example of what actually is done in a TF example, how actually TF examples are made. Once you go through the hands-on example, I think this the portion above would be way more clear and understandable as compared to what it is at this moment. So walkthrough of reading and writing image data, which is actually what you would be more interested to know rather than the fundamentals and the basic, because ultimately the ultimate goal is to do the processing, obtain the result, then you can jump into the fundamentals and then the things become way more clear than they are at this moment. So let's get started. These two images. Good, we've got the images. And what are the labels? Let's say image labels equals to something or something. So cat in snow is 0, bridge is 1. Now we're gonna make an image string. So there would be two steps. One is the creation of TF records, then it would be getting back the data from the TF records. So step 1 would be creating or creation of TF records file. Step 2 would be reading and retrieving information from TF records file. Good enough. So what we have over here is create a dictionary with features that become relevant. That may be relevant. Oh, so as before, encode the features as types compatible with this particular thing. TF train example. This stores the raw images, string feature, as well as the height, width. So usually what we're gonna do is we store the string features and the label, but they are trying to store everything. So one aspect is what QuickML does is stores the byte feature and the int feature label, but it's storing height, width, depth. You can also add those parameters, ultimately up to you. So let's get started. Let's try to implement. So this is what it is. Image string would be equal to, so we'll try to read the image, and once we read the image in binary format, cat in snow read binary dot read. So what we have over here, image string, a complete binary data. This binary data needs to be stored somewhere along with its label, which is cat in snow image labels for cat in snow is 0. So let's say create example wherein I'll be feeding the image string along with the label. So my first idea, we'll go to this at a later stage. What this is, we'll go to it at a later stage. Just focus on the fundamental part of this part. One is feature map as defined before. Here in feature map, I need two things. Forget about this, I need only two things: image and its corresponding label. Image can be stored in TF byte feature format. Label can be stored in int format. Good enough. What do I add in image would be my image string, which is in binary format, and in int features I would add my label, which is in int format. To make an example, I would return TF train example, wherein the features are TF train features, and the feature map is defined by this particular feature map, which is defined over here, which I just defined. Now let's try and check it out. So it is happening. Good enough. Now what they are trying to say, let's say I also add another feature, let's say ID, which talks about the unique image number. So what's the unique image number? Let's say I have my image number as 0 or 1, 0. So here I define it as int 64 feature label, or not label, ID number. And for every example, it would now also require an ID as a parameter. Never forget the comma and add an ID. Here I go, here I go, here I go. So the ID has the value 0. Now let's say image number is 10. Corresponding changes would be there. And this is one example. Now I need to have multiple examples and store them in a TF record data. But before we do that, let's store a single example in our dataset. TF records file would be named as first TF records dot TF records. Your first TF records file, first file dot TF records, a good name. Now what you need is TF record writer. Within the writer, so what you need is for So now we'll be adding to all the files in our TF records data. How? By iterating the dictionary. So let's say you don't have a dictionary. Here we just created a dictionary of all the images, but usually won't be having the dictionary. So what you would be doing is looping through the directory of the data, reading the image, reading the label, and passing it to be read and generalized as an example. So what you do is first you need to open the writer with tf.io.tfwriter, wherein I have the record file. Now you're under writer mode. In the writer, you need to define what all data gets into the writer. So I have one thing as, let's say, first would be image, and the next thing would be the label. In what? In the image labels dictionary. So first I would have image and I have the label. So what I do is get an example. Getting example is one part, but writing it somewhere and storing it as a data unit is another thing. So here it goes. And since we are using index as well, so what you're going to do is enumerate. Count so this part would be image. I need a tf create example wherein I have the image string, which is image label count. I don't think it would be running as I have not made an image string. The images are in image, but yeah, so we need to make an image string. Good. The image string is image, and over here let's not rename it, just let it be image only. Now you've made a TF example, you need to write it to the writer dot write the TF example after serializing it to a string format, and there you go. Now you have your TF records file, which is approximately 33 KBs. Now we'll be trying to read the TF records file. So we just added 2 features. We could have added more features. And what about the decode JPEG part? So you are passing the string, but now let's say you want to extract out more features from the JPEG image. What you want to do is image real would be equal to tfio dot decode JPEG, I guess tfio or whatever, something like that. tfio decode JPEG. Yep. And here you can pass the image string, add features like additional features. Let's say height, width, some features like those, or whatever is relevant to your particular use case. You can add those things. Let's test it out. Yeah, this should be int something, int 64 feature. Show should be this, something like int 64 feature. Now you have height, the value is 213, those kind of things. Now if you want to write and read the data, if you want to reread the data, read through the data, retrieve the data, what you want to do is mention the file name, get the path of it, concerned file, I have my data file. Now once you have the data file, all you need to do is read the TF records dataset. Is it able to read? No, it is not able to read. Why did I pass into this? Concerned TF records. Created image dictionary describing the features. Now what is it? What is it? This is the most important part. If you get it wrong, you get everything wrong. Image feature description. What exactly it is? You need to define height. You need to define this thing. But herein you were converting the features to the string format, to the TF those format, train example format. You need to do the reverse part. So get this over here, store it in a text format so as to have a good reference. Now over here you need to have this TF-IO fixed length feature. Fixed length feature. Now define the parts. First is ID, which is TF-IO. Everything is a fixed length feature. Which is of the format TF int 64. Good enough. Next is my image. I can cut this, paste it over here. Next is height. Next is width. Then is label. And you have defined your image feature description. Now once you're done with the feature description, you can assume that you've actually understood TF records part. What exactly does TF record is, what exactly TF record is, how to deal with it, how to make TF records dataset. Now comes the parsing of the TF records. To parse one TF record, all you need to do is give the examples. This is a function wherein example goes in. One example is parsed based on the feature description, how the feature maps are designed or built. Don't go by the complexities of the functions. You can make your own custom util functions. Just to save time, the video has been running for 38-37 minutes. I'm just copying pasting, else it would be over 1.5 videos. Now map we discussed in the beginning of the session, in the beginning portions of this particular part of section of this video, wherein map is used to apply a transformation over all the examples. So now my raw data set is, this is my raw image data set. I need to have a mapping over all the examples of this particular function, wherein each function is read and passed through based on the feature image description. Does this work? It should work. If it works, store it somewhere. My parsed data set would be this. Now you have obtained the data set. What I want to do is, let's say image features in parsed data set. Yeah. So now you have a dictionary. You have a dictionary wherein these are the things. Print image features. I just want to know the image features IDs. So can it print? Oh yeah, image raw is not there. What we have defined is image, I think. Our feature map is this ID image, height, width, label. That's why it was throwing an error. Now you can get the ID values. You can print the images along with the ID values. Let's say plot.imshow, plot.imshow image features image, and finally plot.show. Yeah, it's not in numpy format. We can make a numpy format out of it. Or I think we need to use display thing. I need to learn what exactly is display thing. I've never used display. I usually don't use display, but it's quite popular with IPython. One lecture on display in near future. This is nothing but your image features image dot numpy. And there you go. This is a very extremely brief introduction, and this is exactly what all you would be needing for how to deal with it in the data sets or during training. That's another topic that comes over here. So how to deal with the data set is how. So you read, I'll not implement, just let's quickly go through it. You've read the data set. Now you have understood what exactly this mapping is, right? So for every example, you would parse the example. After parsing it, prepare a data set. So what exactly is preparing data set? I don't want everything else. I don't need height, width. Those might be provided with the data set for as a metadata. But you in reality or in while model training, you don't need height, width, those kind of features, right? So what you're going to do is prepare a data. This is what I was doing as data preparation. So make a sample of it, make another function of it. Let's say def prepare sample, wherein you pass the example, and within the example it returns tf.io.parse single example, wherein the example is present, and you pass in what you do is not exactly. So what you do is return the examples, return example ID, and you return the examples image by passing it through numpy. Good enough. If you want to do any resizing, those can be done. Now you shuffle batch. While reading the TF records data cannot be shuffled. Only it can be shuffled if you have done the reading of the TF records data, and while reading you can shuffle, you can prepare batches, and you can do auto tune. These things are quite simple, and once you do, you'll be able to do model training. We'll do one model training if time permits or in near future. I hope this was quite helpful and understandable. Please refer these two blogs, but don't directly jump on this blog because the initial pre-processing part is quite hefty and heavy. I would not ask you to go through it directly, and it would lead to a lot of misunderstandings and confusions. Start with the introduction of this, skip the middle portion, jump to the implementation part wherein you can generate a TF record example. Follow my lecture video. This examples the most of the use case of TF records, and if you want to dive deeper, you can explore how TF records have been widely and extensively utilized in my personal QuickML Python library. Hope today's session was quite enjoyable, and if you did like the session, please hit a like, share with your friends, add some comments. Alright, take care, bye bye.